Hello and konnichiwa, Tokyo International Film Festival, Short Film Festival. My name is Fiona Murphy, and you will be screening my short documentary Les Femmes Fidèles, or Faithful Women, this year, and I'm so grateful and happy for this opportunity. I think I started making films for the first time when I was really young. The physical camera was always something that really interested me and fascinated me. I would use my parents' camcorder and steal their Sony camcorder often and make my own little short films about girls that get lost in the woods and girls that leave home and stories about my life and my fantasies when I was really young. I grew up watching a lot of YouTube, and YouTube when I was younger in the early 2000s was a place that really felt like the wild, wild west. People were posting such intimate videos as well as such intricate and complicated artistic creations for nothing other than just wanting it to be seen. And that sort of organic that platform felt really organic at the time. A lot of people were just filming things in their rooms and publishing them, not even for money still. And I think when I was young, watching a lot of videos on YouTube really influenced me to make films. And then before I made Les Femmes Fidèles, which I made in the summer of 2023, I worked as a journalist at a magazine in Denver called 5280 Magazine. And that was the first place that I was given money to and had a lot of artistic creation, freedom professionally to write and direct and find subjects and edit my own short documentary pieces. I would find, interesting people like a Navajo man who amassed 3 million followers on TikTok for talking about Indigenous rights in the span of 6 months. So I followed him in his day and the psychological burden of being so famous and dealing with such racism on a large scale, because that's what he was experiencing. So that really helped. Working at that magazine really taught me how to be professional and get paid for making films. Faithful Women is a short documentary about 2 young Muslim women living in Paris, France. In France, the relationship between the French government and Islam is very complicated and fraught, and the religion and the state have a long and complicated history that involves colonialism and war and difficulty, suffering. I think as an American person, when I learned about French laïcité, which is French secularism, or neutrality, state neutrality, state-required neutrality, I learned about it in a historical context, and I learned that the philosophy behind it was so that the French state could be separate from the Catholic Church, and that was very important for French people in the 20th century and the 19th century. But in a modern context, and today, if you watch French television, laïcité is brought up again so often, which is a new phenomenon because laïcité was kind of an old historical reality for a lot of French politicians until about 20 years ago, when that term got brought back into a lot of political conversations. And in its way, I think modern laïcité has been redefined. That term has been redefined in a modern context and is being used by particularly conservative, extreme right politicians to mean something a little bit different than what it meant in its original context when it kind of came into French vernacular in 1905 when the law was passed to make state secularism a law. I think as an American person, I was really confused about secularism and why people weren't able to express their religion and what that meant for personal freedoms. As an American, I think Americans are very concerned with personal freedom and religious freedom and freedom of expression. And so learning about laïcité was confusing for me. And Faithful Women is about two women that are living in Paris in this context of contemporary laïcité. And I think the film explores a lot of the contradictions that are inherent in the new definition of laïcité. And I wanted to translate the experience of being a young Muslim person living in France and laïcité to an American audience. I've said that word a lot, but I wanted to show an American audience what I understood and the contradictions that exist in France surrounding that topic. I want to shout out some Japanese filmmakers and films that I love. Neon Genesis Evangelion by director Anno when I saw it, it was just totally destructive and destroying and beautiful and sublime. That series it was so inspiring that I almost wanted to quit filmmaking because I figured that there was something perfect, an allegory that was a complicated, beautiful story that already existed. Why would I try to throw my hat in the ring for making something beautiful? But ultimately, it was more encouraging than it was deterring to make films. So also, the documentary The Great Happiness Space by Jake Clennell, who I think is an American journalist or cinematographer. I'm not sure. But that's about karaoke hosts living in Osaka. And that documentary just explored loneliness in such a profound way and the culture of karaoke, Japanese karaoke, and what it means to pay for affection and what it means to be someone that sells people love in short nights. And I loved it. I love Andrea Arnold, who is a British filmmaker who recently made the documentary called Cow, but her other films are often explorations of people sort of on the margins of society, specifically women. She has a lot of female lead characters that explore living in precarity in a way that I really relate to. I'm thinking of her film Fish Tank, that I loved. I also love Agnès Varda, of course, French filmmaker, The Gleaners, the first documentary that I saw of hers that really made me feel like that was something that I could do. That documentary was something that I could do in a creative way, in my own way. Same with Chantal Akerman, who's a Belgian filmmaker, who I watched I Don't Belong Anywhere, and also Saute ma ville. And those two films were really inspiring to me, kind of just like a woman and her camera sort of aesthetic and essence, and really inspiring to me. My ideal project is a project that explores something that confuses me or makes me angry or I feel is misunderstood. My next project that I want to embark on is hopefully going to be shot this summer in different places in America. And it's going to follow modern American evangelical Christians and the rise of evangelical Christians and their sort of charismatic expression of Christianity, their charismatic practices that seem a little otherworldly, their ceremonies and their abilities to heal people and a lot of their services that feel very performative to me. I find very interesting and I find very confusing. And so I think an ideal film is a film that explore something that I'm confused about and that I want to shed light on for myself, but also find beauty in because maybe it scares me a little bit. Like the question of laïcité. I think laïcité in the modern context is it was just difficult to understand, and I wanted to shed light on it. And I think evangelical Christians in America, I have a trouble relating to them, even though I am also someone with faith. And some of the things that they do confuse me and make me feel weird and angry at times. And so I want to look into that feeling and understand those people. I find myself, at least historically, production is on schedule because I'm usually the only one. I've been a one-woman show, so it's just been me with a camera, which makes it a lot easier to be on schedule because after a lot of research, I think I lose myself in a project and I become a little bit obsessive and neurotic about it. And when I shoot something, when I'm in production mode, it's very easy for me to be disciplined because usually I have a lot of obstacles, like not a lot of money or not a lot of time, so it's easy for me to just set a schedule for myself and inflict it on the world. I also use a lot of Google Excel sheets, but I would say I look at the production of a film in 4 phases. The research, which includes a lot of research and pre-interviews, and then the production, which includes a lot of shooting every single day and shooting different people every single day and different things. And then editing is the 3rd, and then the 4th is getting your film seen and listening to people's reactions to it and watching it grow as an independent entity and learning from that. It was easy to gain people's trust, I think. The Muslim community in Paris specifically is a vulnerable community, and I had to be delicate and be patient with people. And I think I had to show people that I had learned a lot about the situation and knew a lot about modern France and knew about politics and knew about things that would pertain to their situation. I knew about laws and terrorism and the history. That wasn't the hard part. I think the hard part was after gaining someone's trust during the filming process, feeling like their trust is in good hands. I think shooting and going out and filming was the most difficult part for me because I wanted to feel that what the intimacy and the trust that these people were giving to me to produce this documentary was not in vain and was not futile. And so I put pressure on myself to make it worth it, to make what these people gave me worth it. I had to have confidence in my skills and vision and intuition as a filmmaker. I want to shoot a short documentary again this summer, hopefully with a team of other people, about evangelical Christians in America and how they feel misrepresented, or maybe how they feel misrepresented and also why they're misrepresented. I'm interested in that, in those communities. I'm interested in people with faith. My future plans as of now is to continue being a journalist in New York City and writing about religion and faith and, the strife of modernity and the difficulty of living now, but also the immense beauty and privilege it is to live in this moment. So thank you for asking me these questions. Thank you to this film festival for including my work.